Hi all, this tutorial is to show you how to translate your 2D or your 3D models into 2D drawings. So you're going from Rhino 3D modeling into Illustrator. So first let's just start with a really simple model. Right now, let's see what units I have. My units are in inches. I'm actually going to change this to feet. Feet in inches. Bring this tolerance to 1/32, click OK. Okay, so to start out, I'm going to make a box, or I guess not a box, I'm going to make a rectangle that is 2 feet by 3 feet. So 2 feet by 3 feet, 2 feet by 3 feet. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to extrude it 5 feet. Okay, so here I have my little rectangular solid. Last thing I want to do, I want to boolean a shape out of it so that I can describe it in section. It'll look different than the elevation. So I'm just going to go back to my top view, make a circle, doesn't matter what size, maybe about that big, and extrude it. I'm going to bring it up like, I don't know, maybe halfway through that. I'll move it down a tiny bit, and now I'm going to boolean it out. So boolean difference. And my first set is going to be my rectangular solid. Hit enter. Second set is that. Great. And then for some reason, I think I forgot to tell it to delete the input. So I'm going to delete that input. And now I have this nice little box that I'm going to describe. So first thing I can do is I just need, for this exercise, I'm just interested in getting a top view, a side view, and a section. So what I like to do, I like to actually cut my section and see it. The fast way to do a section is to type in section, select your objects for section, hit enter when you're done, and then you literally just tell it where you want the section cut. And you'll see if you look through the side that it's already created my section cut. And I hit enter, I can move it out of the way, so I can move it. The only thing is, like, it's only in this view. Typically, I want everything to be visible in my top view, so I would rotate it. So I would do RO for rotate, rotate it, and then rotate it again, RO, rotate. And so now I have that section view. So that's the fast way to do it, and that works pretty well if you have something that is very simple looking. But if you have something that's more complex, it's nice to actually cut your section, and that'll give you the option of doing a section perspective, looking at it differently. So if you do this, I'm going to copy this whole thing. Copy. And then I think it's section plane. Actually, no, I'm going to save that for another tutorial. The manual way to do it is cutting a plane. So I'm just going to draw a line that goes kind of past it both directions. Extrude that curve to both sides. And then I'm going to take this and split it. And then select my plane as my cutting object. And now, oh, split failed. I wonder why my split failed. Let's try that again. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. Extrude, curve. I'm going to bring it down through here. And now it looks like this is completely going through. Normally, split fails when it doesn't completely go through your objects. Let me try that again. So I do split, select my object to split, hit enter, then select my cutting object. Now it's at creating meshes, so it's happy. Okay. So now I can actually see the side of this. So why that's nice is if I want to get a view of it, I can. So I'm going to go back over to here, and the command to get plans and sections from this is called make 2D. So I'm going to do for view USA, and I want to say I want to show my hidden lines, and I want to maintain my source layers. Okay. So what that does is it creates my little views over here. I'll move them over here. So it actually also made an axonometric or an isometric view for me. But this is my top view. This is one elevation. This is the other elevation. The white lines represent the hidden lines. So this is an elevation, not a section. I can then either bring this over and that would be my section drawing, or I could also take this guy and do the same thing, make 2D, hit OK. And now you'll see that my section drawing is here. And what's nice is now I have that projection line behind that I didn't have before. So I'm actually going to use that one instead. So I'm going to bring that over to here. Personally, I like to do as much work in Rhino as I can in 2D before I bring it into Illustrator. So for example, if I want to have something be twice as big as something else, I'm going to go ahead and scale that in here. So let's say I'm going to have a zoom in of my plan for some reason. Maybe there's something special. I'm just going to copy it, and then I'm going to scale it, and I'm going to make it 2 to make it twice as big. So now I have a zoom in of this. I also like to add in guidelines while I'm in here rather than doing it later. So I'm going to take layer 1 and make it for my guidelines. They'll show up red. So I can bring those straight down to show that those are related. I can bring those straight across to show those are related. Maybe I want to show that my cut line is right through the middle here. I can add these little end lines that can change to arrows later in Illustrator to show that that's my section cut. I want to make sure that I have different line weights. So right now I have all like basically one line. I have two line types. So I have my hidden line type, and I have this projection line type. Now this is a cut line, so I actually want that to be its own layer. I'm going to rename my layer so I know it's what. So this, so default visible is going to be my projection lines. Default hidden, I'm going to make my hidden lines. Default annotation, I don't even know what's on that layer. Okay, we're just going to ignore that. I think there's nothing on there. And then the last one, I want a heavy cut line, so I'm going to make a cut line layer. And I'm going to make that a different color, so I'll make it a blue. And I'm going to change the lines that I know are describing a solid. So that's my section cuts where I'm actually cutting. I'm going to change to my cut line. And actually, maybe I'll make this a plan, like a proper plan instead of just a top view. So imagine if I were to cut through here. So I'll change both of these to my cut line. Okay, and then maybe for guidelines, I'll also show that this is getting bigger. So to do this nicely, maybe I'll take this out, rotate it 45 degrees. And then copy this, or I can mirror that around the center. And then I can move this. Move it a little bit more over until that's close to touching. Okay, cool. So that kind of shows that like that's getting bigger. And since we're just doing orthographic drawing, well, I'll leave this one in for now. It's kind of wacky sitting there though. So maybe I'll move it. I'll move it at the end of this line for my drawing. Okay. So this is going to be my drawing. I also like to kind of figure out like how big it's going to be generally. So let's say I wanted you to make this drawing at 1/4 inch scale. So that's going to be super tiny, isn't it? Let's say it's going to be 1 inch equals 1 foot scale. And my paper is going to be 24 inches by 36 inches. So I'm going to make a piece of paper that is 24 feet by 36 feet. So if this were at 1-to-1 scale, that's how it would fit on the paper, right? Because I'm drawing in feet, but this will really be inches. So if this were 1 foot equals 1 foot scale, that's about how it would fit on my paper. If I wanted to say, okay, I actually want to do my whole drawing at 2 inches on my paper equals 1 foot in real scale, then I would just scale this and double it, make it twice as big. But let's stick with that. So we're doing 24 by 36 inches. This drawing is going to be at 1 inch equals 1 foot. Okay, I'm going to take all this and last thing I forgot to do. I want to select everything on here on each layer and join it so that it makes a closed curve. So I'm joining that, selecting these, select objects, join, and then my hidden lines, select objects, and join. Okay, great. I don't need to do it for my guidelines. It's only for things that I want to be closed. Okay, now I've done all that. And last thing, let's check that these are all on the same layer, like same distance. I think they are, but just in case they aren't, I'm going to select all this and say project to C-plane. And say delete input objects, and now it should all be on one layer. So if I look from side view, yep, it's all just occupying the bottom line. Great, I'm ready to export. So I'm going to type export. I'm going to save it as a DWG, somewhere you can find it. Where is Micah? Micah, week 3. This is Rhino export test. So I say DWG save. Make sure to save it as 2004 lines or 2004 natural. Either of those will work. And hit OK. Great. Now I'm going to go into Illustrator and I'm going to say File, Open. I'm going to find that file. So mine was under Micah, week 3. Okay, open. It's going to ask me what the scale is going to be. I want to be able to control the scale, so I'm going to say it's the original size, and then it asks me 1 unit equals how many inches. So for this, I need to know what units my Rhino model is. So if I can go back and just type in units to check, this is in feet. So this is saying 1 unit or 1 foot equals 1 inch, which is actually exactly what I want. If my Rhino model was in inches, I would have to put 12 units, right? 12 inches equals 1 inch in order to get the same thing. But here I have 1 foot equals 1 inch. Great. And hit OK. OK. I'm going to change my paper size, so I can click on my artboard tool. And I can just drag out the sides because I already drew in my paper. I know how big it is. But I can also double check my scale. So if I look up here, this is 36 inches by 24 inches, which is what I thought. Awesome. Okay, since I already have these on layers, I can select the entire layer by going over to my layers and clicking on this little dot next to it. And that allows me to select everything on that layer at once. Now what I'm going to do is change the line weight and type. So I'm going to go over here to stroke and change that one to 0.5. These are my guidelines, so I think I want them like a light gray. It's best if I use swatches. The reason we use swatches is because then you can get the same color over and over again. So I'll go over here. I'm going to look at, let's do color books, Pantone, CMAC coded. And I'm going to pick out a couple of colors. So I already have a black on there, but I'll bring my black over. Let's say I'm going to use this kind of like blue-gray color. Maybe that one. Maybe that one. And then maybe like a pop color. So maybe one of these. Okay. So when I select those, I'm going to select the black one. And then I don't want them to be completely opaque because they're guidelines. So I'm going to come over here to opacity and bring them down to 30% opacity and hit enter. Okay, and that changed all of them at once. And actually, I didn't do that right. So if I select this again, you'll notice over here I had the fill highlighted instead of the line. So let's click on this to make that blank again. Click on the stroke. Now in the stroke, 0.5, and then this is where I'm going over here and click that to make it black and still 30% opacity, which is good. That might have dropped out too much. You can just barely see them, but we'll leave it at that for right now. Okay, my cut lines, I want to be my darkest lines, so those will also be black. But let's make them like 3-point lines, so they're nice and thick. I can also come over here to my stroke panel and I have some additional options. So if I want the corners to be sharp, I can change that to get sharp corners. And that's all we'll use there for now. Okay, so I have my 2 cut lines. Now my projection lines, let's beef those up a little bit. So select here to select all my projection lines. Let's change those to 1 point. And again, let's check that the color is actually black and not some variation on black. Okay, great. And then my hidden lines I'm going to select. These I'm going to do also, I'm going to do 0.75 point, but I want to make them dotted. So I'm going to come over to my stroke panel, click on dash line, and then change the dash to maybe 3 point. And then click out. So you can see that it's actually a dotted line there. And you can even, if you wanted to, you can make this some crazy dash. Like I could do 3 point, 10 point gap, 10 point dash. And then it'll make whatever dash pattern you want. So that allows you to actually create quite a few different patterns. Okay, but I'm going to leave it with the regular dash. Oh, one more time. I leave it with the 3-point dashes. Okay, so there is my super basic drawing. Awesome. Oh, the section cut, maybe I want to show a little bit more significantly. So maybe I'll select those lines. Oh, I undid too much. Edit, redo. Okay, so I'll select these and I'm going to change them to another layer. So I'm going to make a new layer here and you just drag up that little box to change it to the other layer. And then this one also going to change up to that layer. Okay, I'm going to select all those, make them my red color that was on my swatches, the red pink. I'm going to beef up that line to 0.75 point, and then these I want to change to arrows. So I'm going to select both of them, go to my stroke panel, and put on an arrowhead. And now if the arrows, those are too tiny, right? Like that doesn't look very good. So I'm going to select them. And if I change this percentage, I can make it like 500%. That's probably too big. But that'll change that. And then sometimes I like to label them. So I might go to my text tool and I'll make a new layer for text. It's always good to label your layers so you know what each one is. The more you get of them, the harder it gets to remember which is which. This should be section cut. Okay, so on my text layer, I'm going to get my little text tool here. And then I can type in A. All of your font options are up here, so I can change this to whatever size I want. I can make the color of that the same as that swatch if I go over to my swatch panel and click on it. So I have A, and then I'm just going to do Control-C, Control-V, or the nice thing in Illustrator you can do if you just hold, I think it's Alt. If you just hold Alt and Shift, then you can copy something down by just dragging it. Okay. So then I can make this A, B. And then I could label this Alt, carrying that over. I could label this section AB. So that would be clear. Let's say that I wanted my section to be, so let's say I also want to add some tone to this. So to do that, I'm going to turn off my text for a second. I'm going to select everything, Control-C, make a new layer, call this Live Paint, and I'm going to drag this all the way to the bottom. And then over here, there's a little dialog box. I want to click on that and say, paste or members layers. Make sure that's not checked. I don't want paste to remember my layers. Okay, then I'm going to say edit, paste in place. And then I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to turn off, I'm going to make the stroke invisible so that you can't see it. Once I have done that, I'm going to go to Object, Live Paint, Make. And now this layer is invisible for right now, but what's nice about it is I can paint it. So if I come over here to my Live Paint bucket, so I'll hold this down, Live Paint bucket, I can change the color here. So maybe I'll use this one, and then I can actually shade and poche my my cuts. And I can select this and bring the opacity of everything down at once on that layer. So maybe I just want like 50% or something. And that will affect my fills, but it won't affect my everything else on my line weights. It won't change those opacities. So that is it. And save, obviously.